Interworks, MuleSoft, and QA team have partnered up to create an innovative solution by automating data extraction and insertion from a specific website into Salesforce platform in a faster and more controlled fashion. This joint solution removes barriers to digital transformation, making it faster and more efficient to automate different systems in a sustainable, scalable way. The process described is a combination of getting data with data scraping, then converting the result in JSON string, and afterwards send it as a body of an HTTP request to MuleSoft endpoint where a new contact in Salesforce is created. Therefore, to create this flow, we add a sequence. In order to go to a specific website to get the data, we will use the open browser activity and insert the URL of the website in the input field. In the Properties panel, there is an option to change the browser on which the process will be executed. Also, in the Output section, there is an option to create a browser variable, which as a value will have the open browser session, which we will need later to close the same browser when the work is done. Then we will add the Maximize Window activity. When the URL is loaded, the login page is open, so we will use to type into activities. So the values that are provided here are inputted into the username and password fields of the website. After the user credentials are inserted, the login button should be clicked. Thus, a click activity is used, where we indicate the element on the screen that should be clicked. When the user is logged in, there appears a pop-up with quick tips. Therefore, to check if the pop-up exists, we use element exists activity. In the properties in the output section, we create a new variable of type boolean, which will return the false or true value if the element does not exist or exists. The created variable will be used in the if activity, where it checks if it is true, then there is a click activity to click on the X button to close the pop-up. Else, the process continues with two clicking activities. The first one to click on the Customers tab, and the second one to click on Contacts. When the contact page is loaded, there appears a table with contacts. We are going to use data scraping activity in order to get the whole data from the table. The data scraping button can be found here. Next, the data from the first page is scrapped and the data scraping activity is added to the sequence, which as an output has an automatically created variable that as a value has the data of the website table with the contacts. Hence, we will close the open browser with the close tab activity, where in the input section, in the browser field, we will pass the previously created variable of the open browser activity. After the browser is closed, we will use the data table to JSON string activity. For this activity to be available in the project, we have to install the UiPath data table to JSON activities package from the Manage Packages button. After the installation is over, add the data table to JSON string activity to the sequence. In the Properties panel, in the input, we should insert the already created output variable of the data scraping activity, and in the output, we should create a new variable which as a value will have a collection variable as a string in JSON format. At the end, we will add an HTTP request activity. For that purpose, there has to be installed the UiPath Web Activities package. After the installation is over, add the HTTP request to the sequence. In the Properties panel, in the Endpoint field, we'll insert the MuleSoft application URL. Set the request method to post, and under the Options section as a body, we will add the JSON string output that we set earlier, which will send the script data to the MuleSoft endpoint, which will then continue the process of creating new contact in Salesforce with the provided data. Optionally, in the Output section, there can be created variables for the result and the status code. of the HTTP request, which are going to be sent to the MuleSoft endpoint, and also they can be printed in the console of the UiPath Studio with two write line activities as some kind of review of what response the API call produces.
So once the robot has been configured, we can proceed to the Mule application. A RAML has been created as to validate the requests, the one to start the bot job and the one to complete the implementation of the Salesforce insertion. Basically, this operation will receive an HTTP post request on the start operation, and the API kit router will route the flow to the implementation of the start job. Contacts operation will receive a JSON string of contact objects, and with the API kit router, it will be directed to the implementation of the transformation and insertion in Salesforce. Before the flows are explained, various configurations need to be set to enable the whole implementation of the process. This is the Mule app properties files where all the needed information are stored, including hosts, ports, credential, tokens, paths, etc., which are read upon deployment. This is the global XML file, which holds all of the configurations, and it is the best practice to create all of the configurations in this file so as to be accessible in any other Mule configuration file. This is the main RPA flow, where a scaffolding from the previously created RAML is generated. The two operations which were specified in the RAML are now created. This is called the interface of the application. Once an HTTP post request has been received on the start operation, it will be routed to this flow. The retrieve operation will check if an access token is stored in the application's object store. The flow will then move to the choice router, where two options are presented. The object store is configured to reset at certain time, so if the value retrieved from the object store contains the active token, it will try to send the request to the UiPath API endpoint. The request will hold all of the parameters and headers needed to trigger the robot, the headers and the body containing the defined information. If the store object retrieves process yields an empty string, it will move into the default branch of the choice router, where a subprocess will be called to retrieve a valid access token. So I've triggered the Mule application, and I've noticed that the process is stopped here, which means I am going to go through the process to start the bot. Once the bot completed its job, it sent the generated data table in JSON string to my Mule endpoint with the contacts flow. I'm going to do the transformation in this flow and do the Salesforce insertion. Once the process is finished, I have opened my Salesforce account. And here I can notice some of the contacts that were inserted with the Salesforce insertion process. Since digital transformation is of utmost importance nowadays, by using MuleSoft platform as the main integration platform, combined with UiPath as an RPA tool, it is possible to automate all of the business processes, even to eliminate the mundane repetitive tasks. The aim of RPA is to create processes replacing the human interaction for continual tasks of the same nature to ease and accelerate the daily activities of the end users. Together, MuleSoft and RPA will deliver the promise of seamless, efficient, and connected experiences through powerful automation for sustainable business value. Thank you, and feel free to contact us at any time.